Welcome back to Agency Allies, the show where we sit down with the leaders shaping the future of branding, design, and advertising. No fluff, just what it's really like working inside today's top agencies. Today, I'm joined by Nathan Hawks, the president of Arcane Marketing out of Idaho. Nathan's been in digital marketing for nearly 20 years and has built Arcane into a 20-person agency, like I said, out of Idaho Falls. They're making a pivot into the healthcare space. So I'm really excited to kind of discuss what type of clients he's looking at and kind of the more kind of technological advances that they may be taking or may not be taking in their marketing. So Nathan, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being on here. You have been in marketing for a long time. How did you first get into the space?
Yeah, it feels like a long time. I don't know a whole lot of people that have been in longer than I have. There are a few, but not too many. I got into it because I actually had a friend who used to run an e-commerce store back in the early 2000s, and he had hired some agencies. And back then, there wasn't agencies for small businesses. They just didn't exist. So
Right.
usually some of the big name brands were paying big, pretty good size fees, something like 25, 30 grand a month for agencies to come help them. And he had an agency that was helping him on his e-commerce brand, which was doing pretty good. I think he sold musical instruments, if I remember right. And after a while, they came to him and said, "Hey, what else should we do?" And he's like, "Guys, I'm paying you a ridiculous amount of money. Why are you asking me? Like, you're the agency, make it happen." And so he ended up letting them go, tried to figure it all out on his own, started to become really successful. He had friends that came to him and said, "Hey, what are you doing? How's this work? And can you help us?" He decided that he would start an agency, and he and I had been friends for a long time. So he invited me to come be a part of this other agency. I ran with him on that agency for about 10 years, maybe not quite 10 years, just under that. And I decided that I think I could do a little bit better on my own. There were some fundamental business things I don't know that we disagreed on that I just saw differently. And one of those was the idea that people don't do business with businesses, they do business with people.
Classic.
And relationships was such a big deal, and the communication was such a big deal. And it felt like this other agency just didn't make that a priority. And I had a handful of clients at one point. It felt like it was about once a week for like 6 weeks straight. I'd have somebody call me up and say, "Hey, it's been real. We're going to move on, go somewhere else, but just want to let communication with you, the experience with you has been amazing. Can't say the same for the technical team. We don't ever hear from them. We don't really know what's going on ever. But if you ever decide to leave and do your own thing, hit us up. We'd love to work with you again in the future." After hearing that a couple of times on repeat, a couple of weeks in a row, I think I kind of got the picture and decided that it was time for me to do my own thing. So that's sort of how I got into it. Was brought in from a buddy that had kind of been doing it a little bit into jumping in to do my own agency eventually.
We talk a lot about like client churn in the advertising agency world. Do you find on your side of things that you have like a lot of competing agencies, and what do you do to maybe safeguard the business that you have?
Yeah, that's a great question. I actually have this discussion with my team on a regular basis about this very topic. There are some pretty decent agencies out there, and sometimes it can get a little cutthroat, I think, depending on what space you're in and who you're trying to target, etc. One of the things that I have found that has been a huge bonus for us. Well, first of all, let me preface this by saying that of all of the statistics we have as an agency, I think the one that I'm the most proud of is that our average clients will stick around for over 3 years. Like that's pretty
Pretty
normal
good,
thing,
yeah.
right?
And what's the industry standard, like a year?
The industry standard right now is about 5 months.
Wow.
So that's why I feel like it's a big win is that we get started with somebody. Now, the reasons behind that is something I'm really passionate about. And that is that a lot of people, a lot of agencies can do some of the work, but they're not great at communicating. And one of the pieces that were one of the pillars for the reason I started Arcane Marketing came down to relationships. So I instruct my account managers to first and foremost, above and beyond anything else, is to have a relationship with our clients. Like I want them to get to the point where the line between business and personal is blurry, right? That you
Yeah,
just have those.
take them on some side-by-side trails, you know?
Yeah.
4x4
Yeah. Or
ride?
take them
Yeah.
golfing or take them out to dinner, especially for the local ones, right? We try and interact with them as much as we can, but we have clients all over the nation. And, you know, one of the things that to build on communication is such a big deal is we want to understand put ourselves in the position of what the client is seeing and what their goals are and help them achieve those goals. So if we do a good job at not just communicating, rather proactively communicating, then it feels like we're doing a good job at trying to stay in touch with our clients. And while we communicate with them, a lot of times we get the opportunities to talk about here's why we're doing this particular task, or here's what happens when we make this, when we create this content or shoot this video or optimize this page, etc. Here are the
In
things that we're
terms
actually
of
trying to do.
in terms of results, you're communicating results.
Perhaps, right? It could be, yeah, I think that a lot of times it's based around results. So to kind of bring this long-winded answer around, I feel like that communication is such a big deal. And a number of times, I'd probably say even in the last 2 years, it's probably been over 40 times we've been able to pick up a client, not because the old agency wasn't doing a good job, that happens, but simply because the old agency did a terrible job with their communication and their reporting. And the client just didn't even know, like, who are we dealing with? What's
Uh-huh.
happening with the money that we're entrusting you with, right? Because a lot of times it's what we consider to be sacred funds. We're good stewards of the marketing budget. We want the client to help to understand more about what their budget is getting for them. Why is it a good investment? And if we can keep that communication happening regularly, then we're really good at having this relationship, and it extends the relationship with the client. What's funny too is that I'd love to tell you that we're the just amazing and we're perfect out there. We make mistakes all the time. The best part is that when we make mistakes, we always learn from what those mistakes are. We do a really good job at not repeating them. I'd love to say that the success of our agency has been built on a pile of failures and errors and mistakes that we've made in the past. And we've got now 10 years of those. So it's pretty rare that we make mistakes. But even when we do, because of the communication and the relationship, the proactive communication we have, a lot of times we get a little bit of latitude and forgiveness, I would say, from the clients. Like, hey, this last month didn't go as well as it has in the past. And sometimes you get those clients going, oh, that's okay. That's all right. What's the plan moving forward? And we tell them, and then they get excited about it again. And then we just try and do better.
Right, and a lot of, like, marketing comes down to, like, macro issues that may not be in the agency's control, and so I like your point of building transparency into the client relationship. I am kind of curious, like, what is there, like, a systematic routine for account managers to manage clients? How are we what's the template for this?
It's a good question, and it's probably different for us than it is for other agencies.
That's why I'm asking you, yeah, because I wanna hear what's going on in our Arcane.
So one of the things that's interesting is that we pride and talk about ourselves in the fact that we don't do packages. So it's not a predetermined set task list for a price. What we do is custom tailored based on what the client needs. And so for us to get to understand what are the goals and what have they done in the past that's worked, what hasn't worked, what are their frustrations, how do we fix those things, is to have good communication with them. And then we lay out a game plan. And typically the game plan works in kind of a 3-point method, right? What does it look like over the next 6 months? What does it look like over the next 3 months? And what does it look like over the next month, right? Over the next 30 days. So we typically provide our clients a bit of we start out with an audit of here's what we see from the outside looking in. Here's potential reasons why the goals you're looking for are not being hit. Here's what we want to do specifically to address those issues and make improvements. And that's expressed usually in a 90-day game plan. And so the 90-day game plan just says, here's what to expect over the next 90 days, but we're going to take it a month at a time. And so the template I would say that we've got in place is that we require our account managers to have two major points of communication per month at minimum. And one of them is a mid-month update. We don't run off just calendar months. You can't just say it's from the 1st to the 30th or 31st. Everybody starts on a different day. So it could be from the 18th of one month to the 17th of the next, and that could be their 30 days. Within that 30-day period, about 2 weeks into that 30-day period, we usually give them some kind of an update. Here's what's happening. Here's a question I have. Here's some cool thing I noticed, etc. And then at about 3 or 4 days before the 30th day, we send them a written report. And in the written report, there's a format we have. Here's kind of an executive summary. Here's the tasks that we accomplished. And then here's what the next month holds for you based on our 90-day game plan. So we basically take that 90-day game plan give them a lot more specifics, and then try and execute those things. The client also gets a phone call. So hopefully we're not just sending them a written report. It's a report and a conversation. And in the conversation, we go over the report, make sure the client has a good understanding of what it is they're seeing. And then we ask them, how are things going on your side? Is there anything that we can change? Are there challenges you're facing now that we didn't have before? What are we seeing wins in? Have you noticed movement, etc.? And then we can make modifications based on the responses and communication we get from the client. So I've noticed, I think, and this is my personal opinion, that if we're talking to our client at least twice a month, that's better than probably 90% of all the other agencies out there.
Yeah, I think so. How many, let's put this in perspective, like how many clients do you have at a certain, like at a baseline level?
I think we're probably around, we probably have around 200 clients, if I had to guess.
So that's a lot of like, I think the majority of agencies that I've done this podcast with, they're normally around like 15 clients. So they probably have like higher, probably bigger spending clients, but I don't know how much they communicate with them. And so when we're discussing how to avoid churn, I think communication is a great tactic. So each one of your account executives has 100 clients.
Oh, no. I think every one of our account executives has probably, I guess, depending on the size of the client, between 8 and 18.
I thought you said you had 2 account executives.
Oh, no. I thought you asked clients. I have 200 clients, right? I've got six account managers, 7 account managers, maybe right in there.
That makes more sense, especially with the level of communication. So Arcane has been around for 10 years. Everybody, including both of us and watching this, we all know that marketing changes. The tools that we use, the business practices that we use are kind of marketing niches. You've told me that you're kind of solidifying Arcane into the healthcare game. Can you walk us through why you've chosen to, first of all, choose one niche in particular, and that potentially means saying no to other business? Well, you've told me you're not saying no to like current clients, but you're just kind of you're shifting to healthcare. Can you tell me like why we're focusing on one industry and why healthcare in particular?
Sure. There's probably a lot that I can say about that. When we started 10 years ago, it was about, who needs help? There's a lot of companies that could use some help. There isn't anybody that I don't think that we could help in just about any industry, to a point where we got to figure out that the majority of our clients came from about 5 different industries. And we got really good at those 5 different industries. And at the time, those included medical practices, dental offices, lawyers and attorneys, e-commerce, and then HVAC and plumbing companies. And
lawyers have the worst websites ever.
A lot of them do have pretty terrible websites. I can't disagree. But we noticed during COVID, when I think the marketing industry as a whole kind of took a big hit, as people had fear and uncertainty, and they pulled back on their budgets. They pulled back from us just the same. Our healthcare clients didn't. Everybody kind of kept the same pace. In fact, some of our healthcare clients increased their budget. And because of the greatly reduced amount of competition, they excelled. They did really good. And so
you're saying during COVID, there was less competition for healthcare companies?
I think for less competition in digital marketing, period.
Really? Okay.
A lot of people just really pulled back in what they were spending in marketing, period, right?
Right.
We had lawyers and attorneys that canceled. We had plumbers that canceled. Actually, our e-commerce clients did pretty well, just in general.
Right.
But
and we know that because of the stimulus, like we know that spending was up, but probably maybe with different services it went down. It's maybe inequality in like products. It makes sense that e-com went up.
Yeah. And a number of our healthcare clients not only just did, everybody goes, well, hey, we know that healthcare is needed. Doesn't matter what's happening in society. People need a good doctor. People need a good dentist. People need these various things. And so they were less affected, I think, or had the mindset of, well, we just got to keep pressing on. And so those who either didn't reduce a budget usually did really well. We had some that added budget during that time of uncertainty, and man, they made out like bandits. They did really, really good. So in addition to that, as we've been narrowing down, or had been narrowing down a couple of years ago to these 5 industries from everything, we noticed that we tend to keep our healthcare clients a little longer. We noticed that they are good at communication. There's various pieces that made it so that we've decided that we wanted to just kind of focus in on that. Now, on another end of this, as industries evolve, as behaviors for search and information evolve over time, we've noticed that there are good suggestions that happen from Google in their AI overviews. And now we have ChatGPT and Claude and Perplexity and Gemini and Gronk and all these other AI engines that people are asking questions to, that the more detailed or more authoritative you are in a particular industry, the more that they will recommend you. So we've decided that rather than just pushing off all the clients we have, that we will, and we started this a few months ago, that all of our outbound messaging at the moment is just towards the healthcare industry. And so we have found that our healthcare clients get really good results. We've been really good at improving their revenue, their new patient count, getting them attention, beating out their competitor, growing their practices, opening a second, third, fourth, fifth location, etc.
Tell me, I would love to hear, first of all, congratulations. Second of all, I'd love to hear like some metrics, like how, if we're, if we're talking about like a clinic or something, how much are we improving that walk-in metric or that client metric per month?
I think there's some different dynamics to that answer. One
You can
is
give me
that
whatever metric you'd like. I just thought of a random.
sure. I think that after you mature a little as an agency, you find that your most troublesome clients are the ones that pay you the least amount.
Oh yeah.
And so we've set some rules as much as we can to say this is about the engagement level where we do a really good job. And that's less stress on the client and it's less stress on us. And it's so when you talk about like what are some of these itemized pieces of like what kind of stats they get, one of the things that we talk about is that we can take a healthcare practice, whether it's a dental office, an orthodontist, a med spa, surgeon, etc., that does around $4 million a year and up are pretty ideal clients for what we are looking for at the moment. They typically have budgets of anywhere from 3 to 7,000 a month that they can spend on their digital marketing. After and here's the statistics. We've just had to figure this out not long ago, but if they engage with us for at least 12 months, we can grow their revenue between 300 and 400% from what they were doing before. Now, that's a big deal, and there are lots of little pieces that go along with that. Number one is that if they're only doing
interject? You said their ad budget is $3,000 to $7,000. That's their
in services. I'm sorry, not that doesn't include their ad spend, right? If they have ad spend, it depends if they're, if we're doing things like some social media ads and they're covering a regional area, it might make sense for them to spend $2,500 a month in Facebook ads, or maybe another $2,500 or $5,000 a month in TikTok ads, or depending, it could be LinkedIn, it just depends. Sometimes they do Google ads, and in Google ads, depending on the industry or the particular category in healthcare they're in, it might make sense to spend $10,000 a month in Google ads. So that's in addition. I'm sorry, I should make that distinction that most of the time we talk about it in kind of two categories, right? We don't collect ad spend from our clients. We have them pay the platform directly. We just manage the funds that they put into those platforms. But there are really only 5 services that we do, period, within those. And it might be good to define those. So as far as the 5 services go, we do search engine optimization, we do social media and social media ads, we do Google ads management, we do a lot of video, and we do a lot of websites. Outside of those 5 things, it's not a core competency.
Are we kind of like designing them? Are we like adjusting the layouts for better conversions? What are we doing?
Most of the time it's designing them. Yep. There are times where we can take on clients and help them, make adjustments to their site. By and large, we're WordPress developers, and the majority of our clients, I'd say probably 90% of our clients are also on WordPress. And so it's easy for us to either make layout changes or just give them a whole new design, but we can retain all of the information that they have. So yeah, a good design makes a huge difference, and that's usually the foundational piece for success for our clients. But within those areas, I think that there's an overall strategy that has to be set up or discussed. A lot of times we have clients that might say, oh, we're just going to do social media ads. And so making sure they have the right expectations for what just the ads will produce is different than if they were doing SEO and GEO or LLMEO or however people like to refer to it, in addition to social media ads and maybe in addition to Google ads. Like there's some different ways that you can hit strategies to accomplish the goals that they want. And so that's why the situation that we run into with every healthcare client that we have is unique. It's based on what they want to accomplish. We can make suggestions on, again, depending on what goals they have and what they want to hit, when they want to hit it, we make suggestions on what budgets should look like and where. And then we have expectations that we express typically in either a revenue increase and or a certain amount of time it takes to accomplish those goals.
And you've talked about, we're discussing different techniques. We're talking PPC, SEO. You've talked about this like digital revolution that's been going on where AI has given us the ability to, and I could be saying this wrong, but given us the ability to work with these tools in a synergistic way. Do you want to touch on that?
Yeah, I think the one piece that everyone needs to understand, and I'm still running into agencies that are trying to do stuff like we were 2, 3 years ago. And that's maybe to their own detriment. Today, when we talk about SEO is a part of the solution. It is not a big part of the solution. It's just part of it. It's difficult to do a single service and expect good results from it. It needs to be more of a multi-area expansion into your digital marketing. So a lot of times we talk to these healthcare companies and they haven't been doing anything video-wise or in social media. They only have been doing SEO or they only have been doing Google ads. And so what we talk about it's not just SEO. It's not just Google ads. It's not just social media. It is digital marketing, which is encompassing of all of those things. And so we want them to understand that everything plays a role in it. SEO is probably more important than it ever has been. It's just difficult to get the same results we used to if you're just doing that only. Can you get results? Yeah, you can get good results from it. But you can get far better results if you can couple social media ads with your SEO efforts. AI revolution is happening. We're in the middle of it. It's not a new thing, but there are a lot of healthcare companies, really in specific healthcare companies, but there's a lot of companies that are just very slow to adopt. And they're either going to learn this the hard way or they're going to learn it by taking action.
Why do you think that is? Like what about healthcare makes them resistant to change and maybe specifically AI change?
I can speculate, and I don't think I'm wrong, but I don't think that what I speculate could be all of the reason. There's probably 100 different reasons. But what my experience is that most healthcare providers, maybe a little older in age, right?
That's what I was
Typically,
thinking. I'm glad you said it. That's what I was thinking.
Look, I'm 44. That's how old I am today. The majority of our healthcare clients, and this is no disrespect to them, if anything, kudos to them, but most of them are older than I am. I'm not saying always. Sometimes we have some that are younger, and the younger ones are easier to talk to and deal with when it comes to digital marketing. But when it comes to talking with those guys that have been a surgeon for 20, 15 years and they are 50, those guys are a little harder to kind of change over. They've kind of been set in their ways. They've got their habits.
And
They're
it's
a little
been
bit more
working for
resistant to
them.
change. And it's not that
They make money.
hasn't. Yeah, they make money. And it's not that they haven't done okay. But what we try to do is introduce a thought of here's what you could be missing out on, or here's what's being taken away from you by other more progressive thinking healthcare companies that are doing better with digital marketing than you are. And so it's a conversation about what is it that you want to have happen. And I found that we've been able to connect with them on a couple of reasons. Number one is that they are a majority, again, this is not all inclusive, but a majority of them are considering what does work-life balance look like? And as you get a little older, you kind of want to have less time at the office. Or if they want to work hard, they want to work really hard and grow their revenue. And so a lot of them have kind of been banging their head against a wall, trying things and getting little to no good results, and they don't know exactly why. And so we bring to the conversation several aspects. Number one is that at some point you're going to want to sell your practice or retire. And so what does that look like, right? We can increase the equity of the practice so that your value in an exit is dramatically increased. right?
Yeah.
It looks more valuable to you as you leave, whether you have one practice or five practice locations. What does that look like for you? Is attractive for other practitioners to join you when you have a growing and thriving practice. And then a lot of times it's how hard are you working to make the money that you are? We help our healthcare clients become specialists in their own way so that they can produce. Maybe they want to do only some of their higher profit margin services and perform less of those services and work less hard, but make the same amount, if not a little more money, and not having to work as hard for it, etc. So those are all points that we use when we're talking with our healthcare clients. And it's not that marketing isn't new. The other aspect, which I think is comical, and as comical as I think that it is, it's also true in a lot of cases. We will jump in and start talking to some of these healthcare practices that are doing $8 or $10 million a year. And that's as big as they can get. And it's like they're throwing everything they can at it. And it's like they do everything they can outside of digital marketing. They put up billboards, they send out mailers, they're doing radio ads and TV ads, and they're
Old
just not really
school.
sure, like, why aren't we growing? What's happening? And it's because the person or the agency they've hired in the past has given them subpar results, but they are also part of the problem because they have given a sub budget. And so it's almost like they're a little bit less of a believer in digital marketing compared to what they may have seen 20, 25 years ago that was less about digital marketing, more about traditional media. And they're seeing the lack of results from the lack of either budget or attention given to digital marketing. And sometimes it's been, well, my brother or my nephew or my grandson or my friend is doing this for us. Yeah, we pay him $500 a month, or we pay him, $1,000 a month, or so and so is just doing us a favor. And you can see that it's reflected in the results that they're getting because they just aren't dedicating time, energy, or budget towards making it happen.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's always better. It's like cutting your own hair. You can do it, but it's just not going to be great. As far as agency life and you mentioned that you're using AI tools and we're talking about a digital revolution. What type of AI tools are you using and what do you see in the future for AI and agencies?
Well, the first thing that I would say is that if, as an agency, you are relying on AI at the moment, right? It's 2025. We're on the latter half of 2025. We're past the middle. If you're relying 100% on AI, you're going to have a difficult time. Even Google and several of these other engines have come out and said, use AI, but don't rely on AI. So
How are agencies relying on AI? Give me an example.
we run into a number of individuals who will use AI to build a website, for example. And AI can spit out some designs or code within, well, a few minutes. And then you can make some modifications. And does it look good? Sure, it looks fine. It just doesn't perform as well. And what the if we kind of take a step back just a little bit to the core of this issue, it's funny because as after being in digital marketing for 20 years, everyone asks, it's a common question for us. They say, what's the hack? Like what's the cheat? What's the shortcut to making all this work? And the best answer is that there's no shortcut. The
Hmm.
companies that are trying to gamify, that are trying to find those loopholes or hacks or cheats are the ones that go away the fastest, that end up having to fix their mode. They don't get the results they want. The real magic happens when you actually do the work. And so everyone likes to sit back and on the crutch of AI and say, well, I'll just let AI write this content for me, or I'll let AI do this optimization for me. And I'm not saying that AI isn't getting better over time. It certainly is. And I don't think we're too far off from a time when we can rely on AI. But at the moment, you can't. And I don't know how far out we are from that. So a lot of times you have agencies that are using AI to do so much that they're missing out on the core creative strategy processes of actual marketing and relying on AI to handle things for you. Here's the downfall of AI at the moment, right? Just at the moment, because I'm not saying this won't change, is that AI only goes off of what it knows. AI doesn't create ideas. It doesn't help you learn new things. It doesn't evolve in that way yet. And so if you're relying on AI to do everything, it's only giving you information that it already knows, or information that you feed it. And so a lot of times it comes down to how you utilize the AI, what prompts that you give it, how much human involvement is there. And even not 2 months ago, Google came out in a statement and said, we prefer human written or human edited information over AI. Like we know when AI create something, we know when humans create something, and we will give preference to the human side of it. Again, not saying that won't change in the future. There are people that are trying to jump onto that bandwagon of having AI do everything for them because it's easier or because there's higher profit margins or because they don't have to have as many employees or they can handle more clients, et cetera, et cetera. And they are struggling with getting good results. And so they're the ones I think who are bringing that average client retention number down because they're cycling through clients all the time. If you do a good job and you actually develop relationships, if you're the one who actually does the work, that's what wins. That's what has always won since I got into digital marketing in the early 2000s. So for a while, I don't see that changing.
Some agencies have been, yeah, I think as certainly like creatives, we are afraid of AI. And certainly as people who exist in the real world, we are a little bit suspicious of AI. It's good for kind of middle of the race, but not end of the race. Like some agencies have been using AI for outbound sales. I've kind of been talking to a lot of agencies, and it's such an old model where they're working on referrals. And maybe they've adopted the agency from their parents, and the parents had clients. Maybe they had Chevy, and then Chevy walked away. So we're all on this podcast. We're always looking for new sales techniques. Are you utilizing like AI for outbound sales? Are you using it for like a sales rep? How are you handling that mess?
I think that we're going through kind of an AI or outbound revolution, like I think a lot of agencies are. And it's one of the hardest points of running an agency is how can you have sustainable new growth? There are strategies we've used in the past that have always worked, and it's still working for us. We do some of our own marketing, maybe not to the degree that I would hope that we do, but we still pick up new clients organically. On occasion, we go to a conference or a trade show and we can pick up a couple of clients there. We also have referral programs from clients who are working with us, and they say, oh, well, my friend runs this business. Would you be able to help him? And so we get quite a few referrals, actually. That's probably one of our bigger ones. Another one that's kind of interesting is we do some white label, some wholesale. So we end up being the agency that actually does the work, and another agency is the broker that just does the communication, but we label everything with their branding on it. And so that happens on occasion. We do some outbound where we will go and either physically visit places or we will send some emails or even make some cold calls. Not as much as we have in the past. And it seems like with some of the software updates from both Google and Apple here in the near future, that cold calling and emailing is going to be even more difficult starting in about a month or two from now, because they have new filters that are going to make it so that cold calling or spam calling, like as some people do, becomes a lot harder to do. I'm thankful for it because I get a lot of spam calls myself and it's pretty annoying, um, but it will do a better job at not only for cold calls, but for emails. And so people have to be innovative. To be honest, what we found starting to work the best, and I'm in a bunch of groups with a bunch of different friends that are in digital marketing, have been for a lot of years. And that is getting attention by creating videos and posting them in places that people visit. Right now, the hot areas in social media are TikTok and YouTube, Facebook and Instagram, LinkedIn, and sometimes Pinterest. Pinterest has kind of had some ebbs and flows, but that's where people spend a lot of time. It's not exclusive. It doesn't mean there aren't other channels where you can get some attention. But by creating content about education or how you're solving people's problems or teaching a point or telling a good story is a really good way to get attention to your brand. And so those are things that we are not only exploring with our clients, but also trying to work on a little bit for ourselves. And as we do, we've had a handful of people reach out to us and say, hey, we like this or like this information you've given or something worked. Can we talk? Are you available to help us? Can we get a quote from you? Probably better than some of the cold emails and cold phone calls that we've had to make in the past. So that's where we're at currently. Do we utilize AI for it? I think AI helps us to come up with some video ideas, but we don't do AI for the videos. It just helps us do maybe there's some editing pieces that AI can help with, but it's not like they're faceless videos where AI just wrote and
Generates
created the whole
everything.
video for you. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, It's so funny to just watch AI's kind of growth, and we'll see if it really get the in the video context, like if it reaches Hollywood level growth, like if we're just poof and we have a movie.
You
Yeah,
know what's fun?
that's
What's fun
yeah.
with the video though, Adam, is that we encourage our clients to do that themselves. And so some of our healthcare clients are kind of slowly warming up to the idea of doing it. And the ones that have done it, it's working. Like it's
What
not
do
like
you
video's a
mean,
new idea.
you're running digital campaigns for healthcare company A, and you tell A to, hey, if you have a really good idea for an ad, plug it into AI software and send it to us?
No, we just tell them if you have an idea or you have a question that you can answer, use your phone, video it, then send us the raw file and we'll do the editing and we'll use it in your SEO and your social media and your Google Ads campaigns for you.
Okay, yeah. All right. So you tell them, yeah, all right. So you're kind of working with them. That's interesting to give the client so much liberty, because sometimes I work with clients who like, great, they have a design background, they know things, but other clients just like don't. They're more like a unfortunate liability, to be honest.
Yeah, a lot of times if you told, I think it's in the prompt that you give to your clients, funny enough.
Mm.
If you make it, if I just said, hey, Adam, I just need you to send me a video by the end of the day, make one about this topic, you'd be like, and you'd probably get anxiety over it a little bit and just not really sure what to do. And it would be a difficult task for you to accomplish.
Mm.
If I tell you, hey, I need you to take 30 seconds. Here's a question that I want you to answer. Give me the best answer you can, and then just send it to me. And you can prompt them to do things like make sure there's good lighting in your video, choose different backgrounds. Hey, put an AirPod in your ear, make it so your voice comes clear and you're not getting so much ambient sound, or use a microphone of some type. And you can help them to have better experiences. You know, the thought of video makes a lot of people feel like it's a lot to do. They don't have time to do it. They're just not really sure. But if you give them little bite-sized pieces to handle, it tends to work, right? Sometimes you have a client where you might say, you know, you and somebody sit down and talk for 5 minutes and then send us this 5 minute video. And out of that 5 minute video, we might be able to pull 5 or 10 really good clips out of it and use that in some of the social media for the client to help them get attention. Oftentimes, simply just answering a question where it's an FAQ is a really great video to make for a couple reasons. Number one, people have those questions, and so they ask them a lot. Number two, people are searching those questions. You can take that video, you can put it up on YouTube, you can transcribe it and put it up in a blog post and have the video with the transcription. And it makes an easy blog post. Sometimes you're way more efficient making a video for SEO or social media purposes than you are trying to write something out.
Yeah. You've been at, closing things out a little bit. You've been at Arcane for 10, well, you started Arcane. Arcane has been functional for 10 years.
10
What,
years.
I'd love to hear like a very real, honest answer about like, we've heard a lot that you guys do well. What are you trying to like improve? What goals do you have for the next quarter, several quarters?
So there's probably a couple of things I think that we're actively working on. Number one is we while we do everything custom tailored to our clients, we're trying to come up with as much of a systematized way to do it as possible. Questions that you can ask, ways that you handle information, way to have it categorized. What should an account manager do on a daily, weekly, monthly basis? What does a sales process look like? And then at the moment, I think our big focus is trying to work on our own branding. So the ultimate goal right now is to get attention. And a brand is one of the pillars that helps you get attention. The better you build your brand on different places, the more well known you become and you become top of mind. That's kind of a big piece. So we're working on trying to do top of mind kinds of things. We're trying to work on videos for ourselves. We're trying to work on getting case studies and pieces as we are putting the final touches on becoming fully transitioned into becoming a healthcare digital marketing agency. So that's what our goal looks like probably through the end of the year. And that allows us to maybe run some of our own ads, to do some more SEO for ourselves, to have more community and more engagement. So I think that's what it looks like for us for the next 6 months is probably working on ourselves a little bit more while we continue to gather more healthcare related industry clients.
Is there anything you're like kind of nervous about going into the future? It could be within Arcane or just trends wise. I think, yeah, I'm sorry.
You know, I have felt like there are a lot of, and I said it earlier in this podcast, But there are a lot of people that are trying to look for a shortcut or an easy way to get there, and they are looking for the wrong kind of information. And so helping people become educated about what to do or how to do it, even if they end up not hiring us, I feel like is the right way to make this happen. I am nervous at how many people fall for the gimmick of try this hack or try this loophole, get some quick wins here. And I am not saying that those things aren't possible, but they are certainly the exception and they are not the rule. That's not what you can expect. It takes time, it takes consistency, and that's what wins. And so I am nervous for other people and fixing a lot of mistakes from the gimmicks of other agencies trying to take advantage of people. That's my nervousness. I feel like we are in servitude of the general public to make sure that they have a good understanding and that they are armed with the right information so that they can make good marketing decisions and maybe even take away the stigma of poor quality or lack of results because they made a poor choice or because they haven't given it the right thought or they haven't been educated properly, right? If you're trying to go find a doctor, you obviously want one that's been trained or has the right experience. You don't want to find some guy that's like, "Hey, this guy will charge 5,000, but I'll do it for 500."
Or a
You
doctor
don't you
that's
don't look for the
only
cheapest doctor when you're looking for your health, do you?
using ChatGPT to diagnose.
Correct.
Yeah.
That works in digital marketing just as much, if not more, than in any other industry.
Well, where I know if you want to do like a podcast plug, I know you have a podcast marketing in the minds. Where can people learn about Arcane Marketing?
So probably the easiest place is if you come to our website, it's just arcanemarketing.com. We are active on Facebook. We're active on Instagram. We are active on TikTok and YouTube. Those are the best places to find us. Marketing the Minds is kind of ebbed and flowed. We've had some episodes and some not, but we're in the process of trying to come up with more content now, and we'll be releasing those a lot more consistently here in the near future. But
Right.
you can also find reviews about us from other third-party companies if you just search Arcane Marketing and you can learn about us. Yeah, I feel like our visibility isn't too bad.
Right on. Well, thanks so much, Nathan. It was a pleasure, and I'm excited to kind of see that new like healthcare rebrand. And it's been really interesting talking about kind of the dynamics of healthcare and certainly the dynamics of the digital revolution.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and there's a lot of really interesting things I think that are developing. It's a lot we have a lot of work ahead of us for sure.
Right on. Well, thanks so much.
All right, thank you.